So, something pretty wild unfolded at quite a high profile DC dinner party recently. It was back on August 3rd, 2025.
Oh, yeah, I heard about this one.
You probably did. Picture it. It's podcaster Chamath Palihapitiya's birthday party. The guest list is just packed. Top Trump administration officials, VIPs.
Right, the usual suspects for that kind of event.
Exactly. The kind of place you'd expect, well, polite chat, maybe some quiet networking. But no, cocktails had barely started, apparently, when things got heated.
Heated is putting it mildly from what I read.
Definitely. A verbal fight breaks out, and it escalates to the point where one senior official actually threatens to, quote, punch another one in the face.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh.
The two main players here, Scott Bessent, who's Trump's Treasury Secretary, and Bill Pulte, the housing finance chief.
And what set it off?
Well, the reports say Bessent was absolutely furious. He seemed convinced that Pulte had been speaking badly about him behind his back to President Trump specifically.
The classic he said, she said at the highest levels, always messy.
Totally. Okay, so let's unpack this a bit because, it's more than just some juicy gossip, right?
For sure. It's a window, isn't it?
It really is. A fascinating window into, well, the high-stakes world of politics, maybe the pressures involved. Today, we'll take a deep dive into how these personal dynamics, the public perception stuff within an administration like this, how it all kind of weaves together with big policy decisions, even health scares, global conflicts.
Mhm.
We're going to try and connect the dots starting from this pretty shocking D.C. clash and see how it links to the Trump administration's wider influence, both here at home and around the world. You might be surprised where the connections lead.
Absolutely. And what's so telling, I think, about an incident like this one is just how fast those perceived personal insults can bubble up among really high-level people.
Yeah.
It often signals something about the internal weather, you could say, of
Yeah.
an administration. Where loyalty stands, maybe how that sometimes trumps policy alignment.
Right, and creates this environment where infighting can just flare up.
Exactly. It's a climate ripe for it sometimes.
That's a really interesting way to put it. Okay, let's paint the picture a bit more. August 3rd, 2025, Georgetown, D.C., at a club. Chamath Palihapitiya's birthday. Cocktails are just starting. Now, Scott Bessent, apparently just furious about this report that Pulte was bad-mouthing him to Trump, starts using expletives directly at Pulte.
So no holding back then.
Not at all. And it spiraled fast. Bessent's anger just boiled over, and that's when he hits him with the, I will punch you in the face.
Just incredible. Can you imagine the vibe in the room after that?
Seriously. The club's co-owner, Omid Malik, he actually had to step in. And Bessent, still fuming, apparently yelled at Malik, telling him to throw Pulte out of the club.
Wow.
Yeah, basically gave him an ultimatum. Either I'm staying here or he's staying here. Tell me who's leaving here. Just unbelievable pressure to put on the host.
Yeah, talk about awkward. So what happened? Did Malik kick Pulte out?
No, Malik actually managed to sort of de-escalate things, separated them, took Bessent off to another part of the club, and then during the dinner portion, they were seated at, quote, separate ends of the table.
Wise move. Damage limitation.
Definitely. And get this wasn't happening in some quiet corner. The witness list. Top-tier officials. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, Interior Secretary Doug Burgum, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, SBA Administrator Kelly Loeffler, Medicaid Chief Mehmet Oz, entrepreneur David Sachs. I mean, everyone saw this.
So the whole inner circle, practically.
Pretty much. It really makes you wonder about the pressures, the power dynamics. Does this kind of infighting, does it always reflect bigger tensions in an administration, or can it just be, individuals clashing?
That is a really important question.
Yeah.
And while, sure, some personalities are just more, let's say, volatile than others.
Right.
These kinds of public blow-ups, especially among people with that much power, they often are symptomatic of something deeper. Divisions, maybe struggles for influence. I think the key takeaway for you, listening, is that these incidents can suggest an administration where, perhaps, internal loyalty is super important, maybe even over-scrutinized.
Right. Leading to potential instability.
Exactly. And that feeds into a public perception of disarray, which, at the end of the day, can really hurt their ability to actually govern effectively.
That makes a lot of sense. And it really makes you think, okay, how does that internal friction then translate, onto the bigger stage? Because the next thing that really jumped out at me was how much the president's sort of personal brand and even his health seemed to loom large over everything.
Yes, the health rumors.
Exactly. Around August 30th, so just a few weeks later, social media, especially X, Twitter, it just exploded with this Trump dead hoax.
Right, that was everywhere for a bit.
It really was. Caused a huge stir. Thankfully, all the credible news outlets jumped on it quickly, debunked the fake screenshots, confirmed he was alive.
Good, but what started it? It seemed to come out of nowhere.
Well, it seemed like a few things fed into it. There was that comment from Vice President J.D. Vance back on August 27th.
Oh yeah, the terrible tragedy line.
That's the one. He clarified later it was about, the importance of presidential succession planning, not about Trump dying, but the timing was maybe unfortunate.
Yeah, you can see how that got twisted.
And then there were things people were noticing publicly, like a bruise on Trump's right hand, some ankle swelling people pointed out in photos.
Mm-hmm. Physical signs people latch onto.
Exactly. And probably the biggest factor was his diagnosis back in July 2025 of chronic venous insufficiency, CVI.
Right. Can you remind us what CVI actually is?
Sure. Basically, it's a condition where the veins in the legs, they struggle to send blood back up to the heart. Often the valves in the veins are weakened.
Okay. And that causes
swelling, aching, sometimes pain in the legs. Now, the experts say it's generally not life-threatening, but it is progressive. It's usually managed with things like compression stockings, elevating the legs, exercise.
Uncomfortable, maybe, but not fatal.
Right. Definitely not something that points to imminent death, but you can see how in that charged atmosphere, these details just fueled the rumor mill.
Absolutely. Combine them all, and you get a social media firestorm.
Totally. And beyond health stuff, we also saw some pretty significant moves with political allies and maybe adversaries, like that really surprising public spat between Trump and Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah. That was something else.
Wasn't it? July 4th, 2025, Trump's at a rally, and he suggests Musk should be sent back to his native country.
Which is quite a statement.
Understatement.
Right.
And Musk's response was immediate. He announced he was forming a new party, the America Party.
Right. What was the platform there?
He laid out a few key things: technology-driven governance, merit-based immigration, big focus on free speech, economic decentralization, and explicitly opposing, quote, political extremism on both sides.
So positioning himself as a centrist alternative driven by tech. Interesting. A direct challenge.
A very clear challenge. And then you have figures like Charlie Kirk, described as a proud dropout, political provocateur, and Trump confidant.
The podcaster, right? Big following.
Huge.
Yeah.
And apparently Trump really values him for his, quote, strong feel for the Republican youth base. He's seen as a key link to that younger demographic.
So a crucial voice in the president's ear,
Yeah.
shaping the message for a specific group.
Seems like it. So you've got all these personal elements swirling around, health rumors, public feuds with billionaires, key media advisors.
Yeah.
How do these things actually, impact the political reality? Do they influence decisions, public support?
Oh, massively. You're really touching on a core part of modern politics here.
Mm.
This mixes the leader's personal health, these very public social media battles, the influence of media figures like Kirk. It's undeniable.
Right.
These things that seem kind of separate, they actually all feed into the bigger narrative of an administration.
Mm.
The key takeaway is how much they influence public trust and ultimately how effective policy can be.
Because perception becomes reality in a way.
Pretty much. The perception of stability, of competence, it's constantly being shaped by these events. A leader's public persona isn't static. It's built day by day. And even small details or rumors can have real political weight.
Yeah, that makes sense. And these domestic things, these currents, they often spill right over into the global arena, don't they?
Absolutely. There's rarely a clear dividing line.
Okay, let's shift focus then. Look at the wider world. The Trump administration's global impact, trade, conflict, diplomacy. On the economic side, there was that big move on August 13th, 2025. The U.S. decided to hit India with a 50% tariff on Indian goods.
Mm-hmm. And the reason given.
Specifically stated as being in response to India's continued purchase of Russian oil.
Right. Using trade as leverage on a geopolitical issue. That can definitely send ripples.
For sure. And speaking of geopolitics, there were some interesting summits happening, too. Prime Minister Modi of India made his first trip to China in 7 years.
Okay. Significant.
Yeah, for the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, the SCO Summit. It was in Tianjin, hosted by President Xi Jinping, August 29th. And get this, over 20 world leaders were there, including Vladimir Putin.
Wow. So a major gathering, important for tracking those shifting alliances, especially between India, China, Russia.
Exactly. Now, on the conflict side, some pretty unexpected moves regarding Syria. Back on May 15th, 2025, Trump was in Saudi Arabia and just announced, seemingly out of the blue, that the U.S. would lift all sanctions on Syria.
Whoa, really? That must have surprised people.
Reports say it totally blindsided officials at the State and Treasury departments. Apparently, there was no warning, no memo.
Just announced it.
Yeah. The White House later indicated that Turkey and Saudi Arabia had asked for it to give Syria, quote, a chance for a better future.
Shows a very direct, maybe even impulsive approach to foreign policy decisions, bypassing the usual channels.
Seems that way. Then you have the ongoing Israel-Iran situation. Always a flashpoint.
Always critical, yeah.
The administration was involved in direct talks with Hamas regarding the release of captives. That was reported around August 13th. Trump had also publicly called for Hamas to surrender and release all hostages.
Okay, direct engagement there.
Yes, but then he also floated some really controversial ideas for Gaza's future, things like the U.S. taking administrative control or even relocating the Palestinian population.
Right, those proposals got widespread condemnation, didn't they?
Huge backlash, yeah, from international groups, other countries.
Yeah.
Very contentious.
Understandably.
And finally, on the Russia-Ukraine front, things were still very much in flux. Trump had a meeting scheduled with Putin in Alaska for August 15th, 2025, to talk about ending the conflict.
Okay. What was Trump's angle there?
His stated position was that a full peace agreement was needed, not just a temporary ceasefire. He wanted a resolution.
But Zelensky in Ukraine was skeptical, right?
Very skeptical. And there was that earlier report back in April 2025 suggesting Trump was prepared to propose that the U.S. recognize Crimea as part of Russia in talks with Ukraine.
Wow, okay. So you've got tariffs, direct talks with adversaries, unilateral sanction lifts, controversial proposals, peace summits. It's a real mix of strategies.
It really is. So what does this variety tell us? How do these different, sometimes conflicting approaches actually shape global alliances and, long-term stability?
Well, what you see clearly is that blend you mentioned. Unilateral moves, attempts to broker deals using economic pressure. The key takeaway for you, I think, is that while these diverse strategies might aim for some short-term advantage or leverage,
right,
they can actually chip away at long-term trust. When foreign policy seems unpredictable, even contradictory at times, it can destabilize alliances.
Because other countries don't know what to expect.
Exactly. It creates uncertainty. Immediate gains, maybe, but potentially at the cost of international consensus and the perception of the U.S. as a reliable partner. It paints a very complex picture on the global stage.
That's a really important point about the potential long-term costs. And, amidst all these high-stakes geopolitical games, it's easy to forget that other crucial work continues. Stuff that affects our daily lives much more directly sometimes.
Absolutely. Health, environment.
Yeah.
These things don't stop.
Right. Like in public health, there was news about a new COVID-19 subvariant, NB.1.8.1, detected in India.
Okay. Anything serious?
Well, it came from a sample taken back in April in Tamil Nadu. The WHO designated it a variant under monitoring. Experts think it might be more contagious, but the good news, as of early June 2025, was that the symptoms seemed generally mild.
That's good.
Yeah, and India's overall COVID situation was described as under control. But it's just a reminder, the pandemic is still evolving, even if it's not front-page news every day.
Still requires vigilance.
Definitely. And then a really interesting initiative in India regarding childhood health. The Central Board of Secondary Education, the CBSE, they directed schools back in May 2025 to set up sugar boards.
Sugar boards? What's that?
Basically, committees to monitor and try to reduce how much sugar students are consuming. It's a direct response to rising concerns about type 2 diabetes in kids.
Wow. Yeah, that's a growing problem globally, isn't it? Used to be mainly adults.
Exactly. So these boards are meant to provide info on recommended intake, the health risks of too much sugar, suggest healthier options, trying to build better habits early on.
Proactive.
Yeah.
Good to see.
Yeah. And switching to the environment, India is also dealing with a worsening snakebite crisis.
Snake bites?
Yeah. As of early September 2025, reports indicated that snakebite risks are increasing in new parts of the country, and it's being linked to climate change.
How does climate change link to snake bites?
Changes in temperature and rainfall patterns can alter snake habitats and behavior, potentially bringing them into more contact with humans. And apparently it's getting bad enough that it's overwhelming parts of the healthcare system.
That's serious.
It is. Experts are calling for urgent adaptation strategies, more public awareness. So yeah, these stories, there's a good reminder that while politics grabs the headlines, there's vital work happening everywhere on health, education, environment.
You're absolutely right to bring those up, because while all the political drama unfolds, this quiet, often persistent work in public health, in environmental adaptation, that's really shaping our long-term future.
Hmm.
The key takeaway here, I think, is that these updates really highlight the ongoing need for vigilance, for innovation across all these different areas, way beyond just politics.
Right.
It speaks to the resilience we need, the adaptability required to tackle challenges that hit people directly, often away from the spotlight, but with really profound, long-lasting effects.
Well said. What a journey this deep dive has been, really. We started with that incredible argument in D.C.
Yeah, the dinner party dust-up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Peeled back some layers there on personal friction inside the administration. Then we kind of explored how those internal things, the leader's brand, how that connects to complex foreign policy.
Trade wars, peace talks.
Right, affecting global stability. And we even touched on these other really critical efforts in health and the environment.
It really does underscore how interconnected everything is, doesn't it? That dinner party spat, a presidential health rumor, a trade tariff decision, a new public health program in India.
Yeah.
It all weaves together. And maybe the crucial question this raises, for you, the listener, is this. In a world just flooded with information, often very personalized information, how do you critically evaluate the real connections between events that seem separate?
Mm-hmm.
And how does understanding those hidden threads, those underlying links, how does that empower you to be a more informed, more engaged citizen of the world?
That is definitely food for thought. We really hope this deep dive has given you, well, maybe a shortcut to feeling a bit more informed and maybe sparked some more curiosity, too.